Okay, this is day 16, The North Pole Penguin by Christopher Payne, illustrated by Lorena Soriano. Put on my glasses. Okay. Santa Claus is real, and if you believe in him and are brave enough to look for him, you might just get to meet him. December in the South Pole world was filled with Christmas cheer, and Parker Preston led the way in winter every year. While filled with joy and festive glee and grinning ear to ear, he'd count the days and weeks aloud till Santa would appear, like your advent calendars. He fixed up neighbors and homes in brightly colored lights and made sure that the town square tree was lit for many nights. He made marshmallow hot chocolate and other sweet delights while snowflakes fell from skies above upon wintry flights. He built houses of gingerbread with pepperminty doors and hung wreaths on the window panes of all the village stores. He rode his wooden sled downhill throughout the icy shores and sang sweet carols door to door along the icy floors. On Christmas morn, he ran downstairs to view the sight to see of stockings filled and toys and games under the Christmas tree. The crumbly cookie plate was bare and milk glass was empty, and so he knew he'd come that night and left so quietly. With wrapping paper on the ground and every box gone through, he thought about the joyful day and how it had come true. He knew he'd like to meet Santa and give a big thank you for making stops around the world, including his igloo. Upon some thinking long and hard, he knew his Christmas cause, to cross the globe and go and see the man called Santa Claus. He'd bring him gifts and change the roles before the winter thaws, to give back to the special man whose kindness had no flaws. He started building mounds of snow to make a great snowman, to bring and give to Santa Claus before the spring began. He told his friends and family about his travel plan and loaded up the tiny boat to leave the Penguin clan. He came upon the Amazon down by the tropic shore and saw some creatures in the trees he'd never seen before. They'd never seen a winter bird among the jungle floor, inside their native landscape world of trees and plants galore. He told the monkeys, snakes, and birds about his northbound trip. They bonded with the foreign beast to make a great friendship. They talked and joked and laughed out loud while sunshine kept its grip, and watched his snowman passenger melt slowly, drip by drip. Uh-oh. Is he going to melt? It's too hot in the Amazon. His newfound friends wanted to help and gave a wooden pail to save his voyage travel mate and keep the northbound trail. Since Parker Preston and his guests could not afford to fail to reach the North Pole boundary and all it did entail. Then, when he asked his helpful friends if they would like to join his crew, they thanked him for his kind gesture, but stayed in land they knew. They gave to him some local things to bring to the man who flew, and loaded him with cashew nuts and coffee beans to brew. He pushed offshore from paradise and headed on his way, then soon came to the cold harbor of New York's famous bay. He docked his boat and walked the streets under the skies of gray, where all the big and tall buildings did take his breath away. There's the snowman in the pail. He ran into some river rats under the urban stars while walking through the busy streets and dodging through the cars. They gave him snow globes of the town with scenes inside the jars, after he told his grand idea while passing stores and bars. They dined on giant pizza pie for one last special meal, under the bright and shining lights of buildings made of steel. He gave his word to take the gifts and finalize the deal, together with his rodent friends who knew Santa was real. He got his boat and headed north to carry on his cruise, and came upon the wilderness with all its nature views, the magic woods of Canada and pretty skies of blues, where moose and squirrels patrolled the ground and beavers built canoes. He hiked among the big tall trees that grew up to the sky, where badgers burrowed in the dirt while eagles soared on by. They all welcomed their southern guest and lined up to say hi, and later on they made some s'mores and watched the fire fly. He told them all about his quest that brought him to their land, of sights he saw and friends he made and lengths his trip had spanned. He liked their hospitality and asked them for a hand to carry through the snowy ground and join his merry band. The raccoons gathered fresh acorns while foxes got pine cones to bring along to Santa's home the smells of forest zones. They started on their northern march through snow and sticks and stones, and all along they sung the songs with merry, cheerful tones. They walked as one all through the land up to the final pine, but let Parker go on his own up to the North Pole sign. He bid them well, loaded his sleigh, and pulled it up with twine, and waddled up the snowy ground toward Santa's town's skyline. He marveled at the tiny elves who laughed and skipped through town, while toy soldiers had snowball fights as perfect snow fell down. Throughout the streets and city parks, nobody wore a frown, and tinsel covered every tree among the branches brown. Pretty cool. His nerves began to shake with glee. His heart sped up so quick because his trip had finally reached up to the cold Arctic. He came upon the great man's house made of wood and brick, the elegant and perfect place, the home of old Saint Nick. As nighttime came and lights went on, the bells began to play, while snowflakes danced down from the sky along their white ballet. He knocked upon the great oak door and saw in the archway the well-known face from Christmas Eve who led the midnight sleigh. There's the penguin right there. He stepped inside the perfect home and sat down by the flame, and Santa brought him hot cocoa and had one of the same. He warmed his bones and got cozy across the map of fame and found his voice to tell the tale of how and why he came. The room was warm and sugar sweet and smelled of Christmas spice, and Parker gave the worldly things from hearts and without price. He talked about his handmade gift and told the story nice of how his South Pole snowman friend had turned to South Pole ice. When Parker's generosity had come off sweet and clean, then Santa thanked him for the gifts and kindness not foreseen. They walked down to the knitting room to meet the North Pole Queen as flashes crossed the nighttime sky of silver, red, and green. The polar bears and nutcrackers began to cheer and shout, while reindeer pears and gingerbread and ginger men began to dance about. The North Pole town was overjoyed that they left, no doubt, as Parker's grand and thoughtful trip was cheered out loud throughout. The plaza filled with joy and fun while Santa squeezed a hug, so Parker Preston felt the love and never felt so snug. And then they passed around to all a hearty eggnog jug. Parker's insides felt so warm his heartstrings gave a tug. From that day on, every year he's left his South Pole lair a few days after Christmas morn to head to everywhere. He meets the loyal following and gifts they'd made with care to bring with him to Santa Claus back in the North Pole air. Now, ever since his first big trip, the world knows where he's been, and when he sails to foreign lands, the cheers from crowds begin. New friends gave things to bring along to the North Pole Inn and call his name for all to hear, the great North Pole Penguin. And